Hi, I'm Terrell Turner, the host of the Business Talk Library, and today I have another guest on that is coming to us from the UK. And so I really like this guest because when I was looking at his profile, what stood out to me were there's some very catchy things there, which I was like, this person actually knows what they're doing when it comes down to marketing. So Tom Peyton, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes down to the topic of marketing, I think there are so many people out there that are a guru or a marketing expert or specialist. And, sometimes I kind of get the sense that, maybe that term's being overused. What have
Mm.
you thought about that?
Yeah, I can't stand the term guru. People actually call themselves guru. Like this is the worst thing, right? It's just so cringy, and I feel like it has, like, marketing as a whole has just become a very saturated industry, and it's just full of a lot of noise and different opinions. Um, yeah, it's just a very messy place right now. So one of the things I'm really keen to do is just kind of cut through all of the BS, really.
Now, before you started your company, what
Hmm.
was your background, your professional background before that?
Yeah. So it's a really good question because my background was completely different to what I'm doing now. So the 15 years career before I started the business was actually in the automotive industry. I worked in a number of different roles, from customer services to sales to even some roles in finance. So, like, really varied. Um, one of the interesting things about it, though, and I think this is what got me into what I'm doing now, is that I have always, ever since school, like, I've been so curious about people. And I think that's why I jumped from job to job all the time, because I've always been curious in general, right? Like how things work. I like to go into different departments because it's like, how do these things fit together? Like, what's the dynamic here? And I've always just been super curious. Like when I was a kid, my mum always tells this story. Like, I would literally take everything apart, like just to understand how it works. Right? I'm like dismantling the TV or the radio, whatever it was. And I think that's what got me there. And it was this kind of realization, like, 15 years into my career, and I got to a position where it was a bit like, I don't feel fulfilled. Like, I'm not enjoying doing this. And my passions, like, I've always been very geeky. I've always loved tech, and I've always loved human psychology, human behavior. Why do people do the things they do? And it just kind of occurred to me one day, like, hey, like, kind of makes sense, like digital marketing, like putting these two things together and kind of meeting in the middle. And I'd started to read a lot of books about marketing, and I was just like, I'm going to give it a go. So yeah, quit my job and started an agency. No qualifications, nothing like that in marketing at all.
Now, when it came down to, like I said, some of the things you were reading and some of the things you were learning, were you seeing any common trends about like that made you comfortable to say, yeah, you know what, I can do this?
Yeah, that's another really great question. Do you know what it was? And the realization that I had, and the thing that made me think we might actually have a chance, is because, like you quite rightly pointed out earlier, everybody's a guru, right? There is so much noise out there about this tactic and this hack and that hack. And I thought to myself, like, humans are humans, right? And marketing gets very overcomplicated. But I think if you can really understand why people do the things they do, and just understanding people on a very fundamental core level, it's really not that complex as people make it out, right? And throwing all of these tactics and chatbots and funnels and all of this stuff, like, it does not need to be that complicated. So I just thought, like, I'm just going to try and make this really simple for people. And that's pretty much how we started the business.
And I think that becomes, like I said, an overlooked, very simple truth that,
Mm,
one of the things that I heard someone say before when it came down to marketing was, if you learn to look at your product or your business the way your customers look at it, you'll actually do a lot better than trying to use all these different tactics and these different tips that gurus are telling you to do.
Definitely.
Now, what has that journey been like, when you grasp, this is what you want to do, but now building a business around it. What has that journey been
Been crazy. It's been an absolute roller coaster. Not what I was expecting at all. I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest. But yeah, it's been a real journey, and I'm so grateful to have been on it because I've learned so much about myself. Not just business, but myself as well. Um, yeah, all sorts. Like when I started, it was just me, and I was pretty much taking whatever I could get, right? Like I had nothing behind me. I had no real experience to show other than this conviction that, like, I know my stuff. Like, I know a lot about people and I know a lot about tech and digital. So I was kind of like, our core audience to begin with was like local businesses who just weren't very experienced on the tech side. Started going in there, doing some consulting things for them, making it very simple, getting some really phenomenal results. Like one of our first clients, it was a brick and mortar business. They also had an e-commerce store. I think it must have been about the first 3 months, we managed to get them 6 times the amount of sales from their online store, just from making like some of these small changes. And like something you just touched on earlier, like the language that people use, right? Like we oftentimes, like when we're in our own business, we're very excited, we're very passionate about the product or service that we sell. So we want to talk about it, but people don't really care about your product or service. They care about what the transformation that they are going to get from it. So it's just kind of thinking about these little kind of tweaks, and yeah, we started getting some success from that initially. But again, like it got to a stage where I was, it was good. Like I was getting in clients, but then I was just getting burnt out because I was doing all the fulfillment myself. And I was like, I can't really grow this now. Like, what do I do? So then I had to kind of go back to the drawing board again, and start looking at like changing the model and working with some bigger businesses who had bigger budgets. The ones I was going for at the time had kind of tended to be like smaller businesses because that's where my comfort zone was at the time. I just wasn't confident enough. So once we had that confidence, and some case studies, testimonials, etc., started going after the bigger businesses with bigger budgets. So we had margins, and I could start using contractors and actual specialists in each of these areas to do a lot of the fulfillment. And then, yeah, must have been about a year in, we were in a position where my girlfriend was able to quit her job as well and join me in the business full time, that was awesome. That was incredible. But that in itself has been a real, learning curve, not just like having a kind of full-time partner in the business, but being like life partners as well. That was tough, but it's again, like it's been really challenging. There have been times where we've literally wanted to kill each other, but like it's been incredible for our relationship as well, because I think it's like accelerated the natural kind of rate at which you learn things about each other and learn things about yourself as well. It's been such an awesome journey. It like really has, and every single day, it's a new lesson. I'm just like, I'm so in love with the whole process right now. Like I've heard these quotes before, like, people like Gary Vee, for example, always talks about like loving the journey. And I've really just fallen in love with the process of building and learning. And I think that's made me so much more confident, but also effective, because I think when you can kind of detach from, oh, I need to get this goal, or I need to be a millionaire by next year or whatever, when you can detach from that and just kind of lean into this curiosity and this playfulness, like it becomes almost like effortless. Don't get me wrong, there's still challenges every day, but it's more fun. Like you hit a wall and then you're like, right, how do I solve this? How do I solve this problem?
Mm-hmm. And I think that becomes a very common thing that I hear a lot. And even like for myself, like my wife and I, with working in a business of our own, I think that has been a very eye-opening and very
Mm,
interesting journey because it accelerates a lot. And I think, I'm always interested to hear other people's perspective because, some people say like when they're working in a business with their significant other is you face this, it's what they call role confusion at times
yeah.
where it's just like, you have to play multiple roles in each other's life. But when you're doing business, like sometimes you want to kick back into one role and it's just like, no, 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 no. Like I need
Yeah.
the business partner right now, not the significant other. Like, how did
Yeah.
you guys handle that?
Yeah, I love that question. It's like it's something we're still working on, to be honest. Like it's just trying to just be very transparent with each other, and almost like we just had to kind of set an agreement that like we will talk things through. Like if something comes up, if she thinks I've there are times like we had a bit of an argument the other day where I was speaking to her in a certain way and she felt that I was disrespecting her. And again, like it's those dynamics, right? Like you say, like, is this like a kind of business conversation? Is it like are we stepping back into relationship territory here? So it is a fine line, and it's just like, I think the most important thing is that you're keeping those conversations alive, and that you are kind of transparent with each other throughout. Like that's what we found. But yeah, we're absolutely kind of still learning day by day.
Mhm. Awesome. So, what was that experience like? I mean, when you went from, focusing on the smaller clients to where it's like, all
Mm,
right, now we're going to target bigger clients. Like, because
mm,
I hear a lot of entrepreneurs say, they've been working, and for my background is accounting and corporate finance. So when I'm working
mm,
with them, sometimes I'm looking and saying like, okay, all right, the deals you're going after are too small to support the kind of growth you want. Like,
mm.
what was that mental shift in your mind like when it was like, hey, I need to start going after bigger deals?
Yeah, it was scary for one. Like it was scary because even though we had this kind of pool of successes behind us, it was like, are we going to be able to replicate this for the bigger businesses though? Right. So there was still that fear there of like, oh no, it's like starting from scratch almost. So yeah, it took a lot. And I think I kind of had to just, I've done a lot of like mindset work and a whole bunch of like personal development courses. Last year, I actually did a 10-day silent meditation retreat, just to really try and get to know myself on a deeper level, because I think that's where it all starts, right? We can take in all the books and information we want, but unless you really know yourself, you can't reverse engineer that process and recreate that identity almost. So yeah, I think it was having to kind of change my identity of who I thought I was to be able to effectively speak to these people, because there's this doubt that like, oh, I'm not worthy of you because you're ahead of me. Like, who am I to help you when you've got a 20 million pound business? Like, we're not making anywhere near that. Like, how can I tell you what to do? But then when I started having those conversations with them, and I started seeing that actually like these people are stuck and they're lost too, right? And I started to recognize like there was a real value in being able to offer them a different perspective. And actually, like, one of the biggest things that has come out of like working with some of the bigger clients is a big part of it is just having a kind of expert, someone experienced from who can give an outside perspective on the business and just look at things with a fresh set of eyes and say like, guys, like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? And it's this is one of the other interesting things I found as well, actually, when going through this process, was that because we've never really niched down to a particular industry, it's really interesting, like, to see how some industries are so stuck in their ways that there's very often like a really simple or easy shift they can make to like really significantly increase their results, but they just don't see it because it's like, this is how it's always been done.
Gotcha.
Right. So like, I have to do it this way. So then it just became really fun. And yeah, like I say, after the first few conversations, and I started to realize like, oh, these guys have got problems too. Like, you know, it's not just like smaller businesses. It's just a different problem. So just had to kind of figure out, and again, through questioning, through getting to know these people better and what the kind of problems are at that range. Yeah, it became much easier, but it was definitely very scary to begin with to shift out of that.
Awesome. Now, speaking of the services, so what are the services that potential customers can hire your firm for?
Mm. So we're a full service agency. So we do the typical things like SEO, PPC, web design, like paid advertising, all that stuff. But one of the things I noticed early on, like, everybody does that, right? Everybody does all of these services. So we have two programs that we take all of our clients through first, and they're really about empowering the business. So like, one of them we have is called the 90-day growth accelerator, and it's effectively about it's a 90-day program with like 3 workshops, and it's really looking at these like fundamental pillars of marketing. So like, you know, the messaging, the offer, like having a look at all of that stuff internally to make sure it is, you know, because sometimes when people hit a bottleneck, it's because, hey, look, you're this messaging, this avatar you've got, this offer that you've got, it's just not scalable. Like, you can't take this beyond a certain point. So it's kind of looking at those things, and then also kind of looking at what's the overall strategy. Like, one of the things we're really big on is the customer journey. So looking at that whole journey and really mapping it out, because that allows us to very quickly see like where the bottlenecks are. Like, when we look at the big picture, because, you know, what we get very often is people will come to us and say like, oh, I need to run Facebook ads because the gurus have been telling me it's the new thing to do. Right. And, you know, they'll be getting a lot of traffic to their website already, maybe organically, but they're just not converting it. So instead of, you know, whereas like most agencies would just be like, yeah, sure, we'll, you know, pay us this, we'll run some Facebook ads for you. It's like, no, there's a bigger problem going on here. Like, you've got traffic, you're just not converting it. Like, we need to look at maybe the messaging's off, maybe something's not resonating. So it's kind of really taking a deeper dive. And I kind of like to use the analogy of like a, you know, like a doctor, right? Of like really kind of diagnosing that problem, as opposed to just, you know, the patient coming in and saying, oh, I need some anxiety medication. Like, you know, can you prescribe it to me? Sure, here you go. it's like, you know, pushing back, and that in itself has been challenging, because by nature I have always been I don't like conflict. Yeah. But I realize, like, when working with clients, the biggest breakthroughs are on the other side of the things that they don't want to change, those things that they hold on to so tightly, right? Because what's got them to where they are now isn't going to get them to where they want to be. So very often they have to let go of something in order to get to that next stage. So that's been a big lesson. It's something I'm still working on now, but really pushing back on a lot of people. And it's been great, because like, some of the feedback we've had from clients since I've been doing that is it's just amazing. Like, they don't like it at the time, but afterwards it's like, thank you for calling me out on, you know, on that.
Awesome. Now, where can people find you online or on social media?
So LinkedIn's probably best. So LinkedIn is Tom Peyton. I think I'm the only, so it's TOMPEYTON. And I'm the only Tom with a blue background, I think. So I've literally just got like a bright blue background. And yeah, like you say, I'm a 0 times best-selling author, so people probably find me from that. Or our website is elevate-digital-solutions.com. So yeah, you can connect with me in either of those places.
Awesome. Now, one question I like to ask before we wrap up, and I ask this to every guest that comes on, is when you think about, you know, your journey as an entrepreneur, what is one lesson that you've learned that you would say, you know what, every entrepreneur should grasp this lesson and embrace it if they're going to be successful?
don't get caught up in the details. Don't get caught up in the details. Like I spent so long when we started out, like, you know, working on the website and all of the tools we were going to use in the business and setting up the schedulers and stuff. And then I was like, look, we don't have any customers though. No one's coming to the website. And I see this a lot, and I still fall into this trap myself, but this is something so common. I see it every single stage in the business. It's like, there is this procrastination to move, and it's like, we need to plan, we need to do this, we need to do that. But by that point, somebody's already come in and made that move and taken over. I just think move first and then figure out the details after. Like that's been the biggest lesson for us. And it's tough for some people because, you know, people who are very analytical, detail oriented, it can be terrifying. But I just think, like, the real learnings come from having that momentum. There's an amazing analogy I heard, and it was basically like, you can't change the direction of a car when it's stationary.
Wow.
Like, you know, you can't turn that. You can turn the wheel, but you can't change the direction of the car, right? The car has to be moving. So it's like, wow, stop trying to change the direction before you've actually even started.
Wow, and that's really good.
Yeah. So, and I just think that's so powerful, and that's, it's unlocked a lot for us. So yeah, that'll be the biggest piece of advice. Just do it. Just, if you're thinking about something, if you want to change something, you want to try something, just try it.
Awesome. Well, Tom, thank you so much for coming on the show, for telling us about, you know, your business journey and sharing the wisdom and the insight. And to all the listeners and viewers, this is Tom Peyton, the 0-time best-selling author, the not a TEDx speaker, but he is definitely one who will tell you the truth and help you really understand what really matters in marketing. Thanks for tuning in to the Business Talk Library. If you like what you heard and you want to hear more, be sure to click the subscribe button and follow us on all social media platforms as the Business Talk Library.